Hello, my name is Peter Hall, and I'm doing this video to talk about the Redlands School District meeting that I went to yesterday. Um, they were um, doing these. They were talking about these resolutions regarding observances on the school calendar and ending racism, etc. That's just about everybody who was there spoke about, and the room was packed. A lot of the people there were members of the LGBT community, and they were talking about how like the resolution that the school board wants to pass to end racism doesn't do enough to stop systemic oppression, and it whitewashes America's colonial history, etc. And then other people who spoke out against this resolution spoke out against it because um, they say that like um, it spreads guilt to people who had nothing to do with the events, with the history of slavery and segregation and stuff like that. So and then like the people who these other people who were speaking against it, they were like, well, talking about racism and slavery and segregation isn't projecting guilt onto people who didn't do anything. It's just educating. It's just educating and talking about our history and stuff like that. Well, these people we know are lying about that because if you're white, especially if you're a straight white male like me, then these liberals will happily lecture you about your privilege as a white person, and especially as a member of the straight white male patriarchy. So all these people do is lie. They always lie about stuff like this. They say one thing, but then they turn around and say the exact opposite later. So yeah, all they want to talk about is they want to constantly bitch about their grievances against white people, especially straight males, and if we say anything against it, then they're gonna label us as bigots and racists, etc. And then the other thing that they wanted to talk about was getting rid of observances for Pride Month and stuff like that. A lot of people were upset about that because the school board recently banned pride flags on school grounds. And so, yeah, a bunch of people were talking about that. There was one part where, like, an Asian student, I don't know how old she is, I think she must be a junior or senior or something, but an Asian student blamed the school board for her suicide attempt from like a couple months ago. And she held up like a water wristband and she was all like, look at these wristbands. These wristbands come from the hospital that I was at after I tried to kill myself after you voted to ban pride flags at school. So, yeah, these people are all raging narcissists. Um, every time they speak, most of them only talk about themselves. They only talk about how, like, resolutions, how, like, the things that the school board has done or is going to do, how it affects them. Me, 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 me. I. All they think about is themselves. So, that's all they talk about. And, regarding that Asian student, you need help. Okay? If you're gonna kill yourself because the school board voted to like ban pride flags on school grounds and you're gonna try and kill yourself because of that, that is evidence that you have severe mental health issues. And your mental health issues are not the school board's fault. If you need a flag, like the gay pride flag, to feel represented, if you need the government to fly that on public property to feel safe and represented, then you have serious issues. So, narcissism, inferiority complex, whatever, you have some serious problems. You need help. And then another thing that these people did, a lot of them, the Redlands School Board recently elected 2 new members. They've been on the board for several months now, I think. Maybe a year at most. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look them up. But they were constantly attacking 2 members in particular. They were constantly attacking members Jeanette Wilson and Candy Olson. Candy Olson in particular. They keep, every meeting, they keep claiming that Candy Olson harassed a trans athlete at a Riverside sporting event. But they never identify who this athlete is. They never specify what Candy Olson said to or said about this person. The only evidence they have that she allegedly harassed this person is her public statements that biological males should not compete against biological females in sports. And that's true because men are generally stronger and faster than women. That's just a known fact. Sure, there are some women or girls that might be able to take on a man or a boy and beat them, but that typically is not the case. Most men will outperform most women. That's just a fact. So it's at these school board meetings, you only get like 90 seconds to say what you're going to say on any given topic. I spoke about 2 topics, so I got I had 3 minutes total to speak. So I'm going to say in this video everything that I couldn't say at the school board meeting. First thing I'm going to talk about is the resolution to end racism. Okay? I'm tired of the continuing dialogue about racism, and it's actually not a dialogue at all. It's more of like a monologue where all you people are shouting at us and claiming that like we never listen to you and we never want to learn, we never want to engage. Slavery legally ended in America in 1865. So let's see, it's 2025 now. So almost 160 years ago. Yeah, 160 years ago, slavery ended. Segregation ended in 1965 after the civil, was it 69? Slavery ended in the 60s, okay? Segregation ended in the late 60s. So, we've made a lot of progress towards integration of racial minorities, and yet that's never good enough. All these people want to do is they want to talk about their grievances against white people. They want to talk about how they're owed reparations for things that they never experienced personally, okay? And why is it that whenever anybody talks about slavery, they only talk about the American history of it, okay? If we're going to talk about slavery, let's talk about the fact that a Ugandan United Nations judge living in Oxford, England, was arrested quite a few months ago after being discovered owning a slave. Okay? This is in 2025, and a Ugandan judge, an African woman living in Oxford, England, was arrested after being discovered owning a slave. And the slave was also from Uganda. Okay, this woman's name is Lydia Mugambi. So, yeah, whenever anyone talks about slavery, all they want to talk about is the American history of it. And I'm just tired of, white people being blamed for all the world's problems, especially straight men. I'm tired of it. Okay, and then the other thing I want to talk about is the observances. Okay, you at this meeting yesterday, a bunch of you said that celebrating Pride is not celebrating sexual debauchery, you mentioned how my side always says that it's about celebrating sexual orientation, celebrating sexual debauchery, and you said that that's not what it's about at all. That's nonsense, because we've seen what goes on at these pride events, because a lot of it is filmed on video and then it's posted on the internet. So we've seen what goes on at these pride parades. We see people walking around in um scantily clad clothing. Some of them are even naked. I've seen men walking around with dildos attached to their bodies, or people walk around with like penis ornaments or vagina ornaments, etc. People, I last year there was something about how in San Francisco people were uh, laying around in like plastic pools full of piss. I can look up the article about that. So yeah, people were pissing on each other in San Francisco at a pride event like last year or so. So don't tell us that that pride celebrations are not about your sexual debauchery, because it totally is. All pride is a public display of your debauchery. That's the whole point of pride. So stop lying. We know that's what you're fucking doing. Okay, and I'm sorry for swearing. But the Washington Post, I think this article is from like 2014 or something. But the Washington Post, and I'll look up the article later and do a full reading of it, so that you don't have to take my word for it. I will find this article and read it. But the Washington Post did a editorial called "Why Kink Belongs at Pride and Why I Want My Kids to See It," and it was written by a lesbian living in a relationship with a trans woman. So I think actually, it's a man pretending to be a woman or something. It's either a lesbian in a relationship with another lesbian, or it's a lesbian in a relationship with a trans man identifying as a woman. But I will find this article and I will read it. But the article is literally titled "Why Kink Belongs at Pride and Why I Want My Kids to See It." Vox did a similar article talking about how the LGBT community is trying to become um, balancing issues of becoming mainstream, but also like being able to like display their kink, their kink at Pride. And so they were talking about respectability politics and how like respectability politics makes inclusion is at odds with inclusion. Basically, the whole point of the article was that wanting the LGBT community at these pride events to display a modicum of normal, decent human behavior is too restrictive, and it denies them their right of living authentically as human beings. That's the whole point of that article. I will also find the article and do a full reading of it. So don't tell us, like, once again, don't tell us that celebrating pride isn't about celebrating your kinks and your debauchery. That's the whole point. Okay, and another thing that happened is, oh yeah, I already talked about Candy Olson being attacked, constantly, verbally attacked for allegedly harassing a trans student. Jeanette Wilson is attacked too, not as often as Candy Olson, but she's attacked too. At meeting last month, or the month before, they were attacking her because she said something about how if the LGBT community gets to have their pride flag flown publicly, then shouldn't we also allow other groups to fly their pride flags? She said something about how like Nazis have their swastika flag, and they don't see the swastika flag as a symbol of hate. And then a bunch of people accused her of being a Nazi. I just have to say that the library in my town, the AK Smiley Library, has like hundreds of swastikas on their tile floor, and the AK Smiley Library has been around since like the 1890s, so it's like over 100 years old. It's like 130 something years old, and I think the tiles have been there since the beginning, but I'm not sure. They've been there for a while. Probably before World War II when Hitler, probably before Hitler, they were probably there before Hitler took the swastika and made it the Nazi symbol. So now when everyone thinks of the swastika, they think of the Nazis. But the swastika actually has a long storied tradition in other cultures, mainly Indian, mainly Asian, but also some Indian. Um, it's a symbol of eternity. It's a symbol of the cycle of nature, etc., etc. But Hitler took the swastika because it represents eternity, and that's why he took it, because he wanted it to be a symbol of the Third Reich, which he wanted to last for at least 1,000 years. So he took it because it represented eternity, and now whenever anyone sees the swastika, they think of Hitler and the Nazis. Let's see. So. Yeah, I just the level of raging narcissism at these meetings is ridiculous. The narcissism, the emotional manipulation, the blatant lying, the half truths, it's ridiculous, and I'm calling it out. I'm tired of it.